If you are thinking of switching to a virtual private host and you want to utilize the Lightspeed platform, then in this video, I'm going to show you how to set everything up step by step. I will show you the process of me purchasing a VPS plan for the best performing host, log into the root server to install a control panel called CyberPanel. I'll show you how to create a completely new WordPress website and transferring and migrating your existing websites to your VPS host. Now, there are two types of Lightspeed servers. Number one is the Lightspeed Enterprise server, where you'll be able to host one domain for free on a server, but if you want to host multiple domains, you have to pay for it. And the other is called the Open Lightspeed server, where you can host as many domains as you want for free. And in this video, we're going to install the Open Lightspeed server. Anyway, if you don't know which virtual private server to choose, I have done the homework for you. You can check out this video to discover which is the best performing VPS host. And you'll be surprised that the popular ones you know are not exactly the best performing. If you have been following my channel, I know some of you really want to get into virtual private servers, but you don't know how to. I made this video for you. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey, this is Jack, and if this is your first time watching a video from my channel, I do a lot of WordPress and online business tutorials, and my main focus is to help you get a fast loading website so that it can rank well on search engines and maximize your profits. If this is something you're interested in, then subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you won't miss any of my videos. Anyway, let's get started with the process. Now let's get started with UltaHost because it is the best performing VPS host. Right after I purchase a plan from UltaHost, I'll be installing CyberPanel to it, and then I will show you how to create a brand new WordPress site with UltaHost, or on CyberPanel to be exact. Now this is the plan I'm selecting. I'll be choosing the yearly plan because it gives more discounts. So let's click on this. And then for the operating system, I want to select Ubuntu with the latest version. And as for the control panel, I'll leave it as none. We'll leave these two as it is, and then let's continue. Let's check out, fill in the details. And then for this case, I will use PayPal. Let's complete the order. Okay, I've paid for this service. Now let's go to services and let's go to my services. You need to click here. So you gotta wait for a while for Ubuntu to be installed on the server. So I'll pause this video, and when it is done, I'll come back to it. Now, once you have signed up to UltaHost and you have paid for it, they will provide you with some information like this. And what we need now is actually this information over here. This SSH information, this is the root access to your server. Now, to log into root and install CyberPanel, what you need is a program called Putty. You can download it here, but as for me, I have already downloaded it. So what I need to do is to copy this IP address, open up Putty, and paste the IP address here. And then we can click on open. Okay, first time when you're accessing the root, you'll receive this message. Just click on accept. And then now over here, you want to log in as root. And as for the password, this will be the password. Now the thing here is that if you are still seeing the OS is installing, you would not be able to access the root. You gotta wait for it for a couple of minutes for the installation to complete before you will see this over here. Right now, let's paste the password by just right clicking it. The password will not be displayed, but it is already pasted. So let's hit enter, and now we are in. Now let me open this up. The thing we want to do now is to make sure that all the system packages are up to date. So we need to run a couple of commands. The first is sudo space apt update, and the system will start updating. And then next, sudo space apt upgrade. And we're done. And then the next thing you want to do is to paste in this command to install CyberPanel. Don't worry, you don't need to type everything out. I've left a link in the description. Once you click onto it, you reach my blog where you can copy the command. Hit enter, and CyberPanel will start installing. Then over here, you want to hit 1 to install CyberPanel. Hit enter, and then over here, you want to select install CyberPanel with Open Lightspeed. This will allow you to host as many domains onto CyberPanel. If you choose this Lightspeed Enterprise, you can only install a Lightspeed server on one domain. So I will select 1 and hit enter. For the full service of CyberPanel, I want to hit capital Y and hit enter. For the remote MySQL, I do not want to install that, so I'll hit N for no. hit enter, and then I'll just hit enter. And over here, you're selecting your CyberPanel password. So D is the default password, which is 12345667. Or if you want them to generate a password, you can hit R. Or if you want to set it your own, you hit S. So for me, I'll just hit S and enter. I'll set a password and hit enter. Enter the password again. Do I want to install Memcache? Y, which is yes. Redis, Y. And for the watchdog, just hit enter. And CyberPanel will just continue to install. So we can let this run for a while. I think it will take about maybe 10 minutes or something. And when this is installed, we'll get back to this. Okay, it seems that we are done. So it's asking us if we want to restart the server. I won't worry about that right now. But what we need to do right now is to head over to CyberPanel by copying this IP address with this 0890 port. This is the port for CyberPanel. Let's copy this. And then you want to open up a new tab and paste it here. Now, the first time you're accessing this, you receive this warning message. All you need to do is just to click on advanced and just accept the risk and continue. Because this is your server, you know this is safe. And now we are in CyberPanel. What we need to do is to put in admin. And then for the password, that's the password I've set in PuTTY. And then let's sign in. And we are in CyberPanel right now. Now let's create a completely blank WordPress website. So let's go to websites and create website. And then let's select a package. I'll put it as default. And then for the owner is admin. The domain name, I'll be using this domain. And then for the email address and for the PHP, I'll select 7.4. This is the most compatible version. For the SSL, I'll leave it as it is right now because this domain is not pointed to your new server yet. When it is pointed, you can install it later on. And then you want to select this tree, create website, and we are done. Next, let's go to websites and then let's list websites. And then we want to click on manage. Now, as we scroll down, we want to install this WordPress with Lightspeed Cache. This is your website name. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it here. And then for the login user, I'll just create a new user and then the password, email address, and then I'll leave this empty. Let's install now. Okay, we are done. So the next thing is we need to grab this IP address. Let's copy this link. Let's go to your domain name registrar. You might be using something else, but for me, I'm using Namecheap, but all the functions are basically the same. All you need is just to be able to adjust the A records. So over here, I want to change the A record. Make sure to only have the IP address, removing all the other stuff. And then let's save changes. And then you need a CNAME record with your domain name over here. And the host will be www. So what this basically means is that this domain is now hosted on this IP address. So right now, if I were to copy this and if I open up a new tab and paste this in, here we go. That's rather quick. We have a complete blank WordPress website, but just to make sure it is hosted on UltaHost and on the IP address, we want to open up a new tab, go to dnschecker.org, and then you want to paste in the domain. And let's search. Now let's check this IP address. Does it match with this? It's 107.161, 107.161, 78.202, 78.202. So there we are. This blank WordPress website is hosted on UltaHost. Now let's install SSL. Let's go to CyberPanel and under SSL, we want to manage it. Let's select a website, issue SSL, done. Now the SSL certificate is installed. But right now, if you go to the website and if you refresh, you can see your website already has this HTTPS. But if you remove it and you try to access the non-secured website, this is quite lucky because sometimes you can still access the non-secured website. So now I'm going to show you how to enforce SSL in case somebody try to access your non-secured website. I don't know who does, but sometimes it happens. So let's go to websites and then you want to list websites. And then you want to click on manage. Now over here, let's go to rewrite rules. And then let's select template. We want to force HTTP to HTTPS. And then save rewrite rules. So now whoever tries to access your HTTP version of your website, they'll be forced to the HTTPS version of your website. Alright, now that you know how to create a brand new WordPress website, which is super easy, I'm going to show you how you can migrate your existing website to CyberPanel without any downtime. And the site we're going to migrate is this e-commerce website that I have, which is what I use to do WooCommerce tutorials. And this website is hosted on SiteGround, which is perfect because SiteGround has its own control panel and it requires you to migrate your website manually. Once you know this method of migration, you can simply migrate your WordPress website like a pro to any web hosting services. It requires a few things. Your website consists of files and images, database, and you need an additional file called wp-config. So as long as you migrate these three items over to your new web host, your website will be up and running. So let's visit the files of this website. I'm going to walk you through step by step here. Under Site, let's go to File Manager. You'll see something like this. All the files and everything of this website will be in this public HTML folder. Let's click through to it. And as you can see here, these are all the files of your WordPress website. Most of them already existed when you install WordPress. And the file that constantly changes is this wp-config as well as wp-content. This is where all your website files are hosted. And you need to make a copy of this entire folder. So let's head back one level. This is the file we need to download to our local computer before we upload this to our new web host. And all you need to do is to right click and archive. It may look different if you're on cPanel, but the general idea is here. All you need to do is just to download the zip file of this folder. Let's click archive, give it a name. Let's say this is WP content. Let's confirm. Now it depends on how big your website is. It may take a while for this. And apparently this website is not very big. So it probably took maybe a minute. And then as we scroll down, this is the file we have just created. On cPanel, you may be able to download the zip file directly to your local computer. But for SiteGround, this is how it works. Let me click on this. We can either click on download here or we can click on the download button here. Either one works. Let's save this to my computer. Let's give it a while. Make sure the entire website is downloaded because over here it is 273 megabytes. If the file is not completely downloaded, we'll have some issues later on. Now let's do something else. We need this wp-config file. So let's click on this and then let's download this. And this is done. Now in the meantime, we need to download the database because without the database, everything wouldn't work. Your website will crash. Because over here, all your website files are pointed to the database, and from the database, it will draw all the information and files and display it on your website. So the database is super important. To access that, let's go to MySQL and let's go to phpMyAdmin. If you're on cPanel, you should be able to see phpMyAdmin as an option. You don't need to go through these hoops. Anyway, let's access phpMyAdmin. Now, as you can see, this is the database of the website. If you have multiple websites and you're running it on cPanel, you may see many different databases here. And because sometimes on the database, you will have no indication of which website this database belongs to, so let me show you how to see it. Now, let's say we don't have this calf.com over here, and we just have these gibberish numbers over here. Now, what you need to do is to expand this, and then there are so many data tables over here, and what you need is the options table over here. Now the prefix may be different for you, but there will always be one options table for your database. If you click onto it, you will see over here under site URL, it is pointed to this website. So you know this database belongs to this website. Okay, now what we need to do is to copy this entire database. If you click on this database, these are all the database tables of your website. What you need to do is to check all, and then with selected, you want to export it. And then just click go, and let's save the file on the computer. So the WP content folder is downloaded. This is 273 megabytes. Let's go back to SiteGround and to File Manager. Let's see if it matches the size of the zip file over here. So it's 273 megabytes. So this matches. Alright, now that we have downloaded all three files, it's time to move them over to your new server, which is managed by CyberPanel. The first thing we need to do is to create a new website, just like how we created a brand new WordPress website. So let's go to websites and let's create a website. Now over here, let's select the default, admin, and for the domain name, we gotta put in the same domain of the website you want to transfer over from the other web host. So it is carved.com, put in an email address, select a PHP version, 7.4 is the most suitable. Now over here, we do not want to check the SSL yet, because right now it wouldn't work. It will only work if the domain name server is pointed to this IP address. So we'll install the SSL certificate later on once you have pointed the domain name server over. We can check all these and let's create the website. Let's give this a while. And we are done. Next, we need to go to websites and list websites. And this is the website we have just created. Don't mind this because this is drawing information from the current website. So let's go to manage. And then you want to scroll down all the way. And let's install WordPress. Blog title will be carved. This is your WordPress username, the password, and the email address. And let's install. Okay, we're done. Now let me show you something. Let's go back to list websites. And then let's manage this. If we go to the file manager, and if we go to public HTML, we can see that all these files are installed by default from the WordPress install. And from here, we can see we have WP content. This contains all the images and files of the blank WordPress install. And we have the WP config. This is something very important. We have to change something over here later on in order for everything to work. So we have to import everything here first, and then we'll make the change. Let me open this up so you can see what's the difference. Now over here, you can see that the database name is this and the user is this. When we import the WP config file from another host, it will have a different database name and user and a password as well. So we gotta be mindful of that. We gotta take note of this information of this blank WordPress install, and we need to move all this information over to the WP config file we have just downloaded from the previous host. So for this file, you wanna open up as a notepad. Let me adjust this. Just note that the one on the left are information of the brand new WordPress website we have just created, and these are the information of your previous host. As you can see, they are different. Over here, the database username is this, and on the new web host, this is the username. So right here, this database name, we gotta copy this, and we gotta paste it over here. The username as well, and the password. And finally, this host name. The rest you don't actually need to change them because you're going to move the database from the previous server over to the new server. So all these are the information of your current website, while all these are the information of your web host. So we change this and we leave all this as it is. Alright, so let's save this and we are ready. Let's close this off. Now what we want to do first is to access the database of this website. So let's open up a new tab and then let's go to databases and list database. We want to select the domain. We want to go to databases and we want to go to PHP MyAdmin. And over here, as you can see, there are two databases. To know which is which, let's just go to WP options. And as you can see, this database belongs to the website we're transferring over. So let's select this. And then what we want to do is to drop all this information off because this is the database of the blank website. We want to import the database of the current website from the previous host. So let's check all. And then what we want to do is to drop it. And then let's select yes. Next, you want to import. Now there is something I really want to show you. You see over here, the max upload size. This is 80 megabytes, which I think is enough because the SQL file is 11 megabytes. But in case you're seeing like maybe 2 megabytes, I want to show you how to fix this. Because if you try to upload an 11 megabytes file and your maximum upload size is 2 megabytes, it will pass an error. So let's go back to CyberPanel and then let's scroll down and then let's go to PHP. And you want to edit PHP configs. We'll adjust both 7.4 and 7.3. Let's do 7.4 first. So over here, the upload maximum file size, we want it to be 200 megabytes. And for the post max size, we want to change this to 80 megabytes. So these are the two things we have to change. We have to save changes and restart the PHP. Now next, we want to select 7.3. Let's do the same thing, 200 megabytes here and 80 megabytes here. and that will solve this issue. You just gotta make sure that you restart the PHP, and if you still don't see this change, you gotta enter my PHP again over here. This is important if you see 2 megabytes over here, because by default, CyberPanel set this as 2 megabytes. Anyway, let's upload the MySQL file. Let's open this and let's click on Go. Now, depending on how big your website is, this may take a while. So we just let it run for a while and we are done. This is not a big website, so it just takes a few minutes. Okay, cool. This is the database from your previous web host. We are basically done with phpMyAdmin. Next, let's go back to File Manager. And for this WP content, we want to delete this. But just to make sure that we delete only WP content, because we are going to upload the folder from the previous host. Let's delete this, skip the trash folder, and now we want to upload this file. Let's click on upload, and this is done. Let's close this. Now we got to delete this WP config file, and then we got to upload this file, and we're done. Now, there is just one very important thing for us to do, which I totally forgot, and it is to edit the database option from HTTPS to HTTP, just in case there are any conflicts to the SSL certificate during the propagation or switching of hosts. Because when you shift to a new host, the SSL certificate will be different from the previous host. So if you force a HTTPS and the new SSL certificate has not taken effect, it might cause some conflict and downtime. And you don't need to worry about your site not having an SSL certificate in the meantime. As soon as you point your DNS over to your new host, you can immediately request for an SSL certificate. Now, the order is very important. Before your new host can issue an SSL certificate, your DNS has to be pointed over to the new host. Otherwise, there will be an error issuing the SSL certificate. Let me walk you through it. So here we go. Let's go to the database, and then let's go to the options page. And right here, you can see that the site URL is HTTPS. The home page is HTTPS as well. If we haven't issued an SSL certificate on the new website and you are forcing the HTTPS, there will be a conflict. So that's not what we want. We want to edit this, remove the S, and let's click on Go. So this is saved. Let's do this as well. And we are basically done. Now that we have everything ready to go, there's just one more thing we need to do, which is to point the domain name server over to the IP address on UltaHost, which you can find over here, or you can find it on your CyberPanel. This link over here, as well as this. So let's go to your domain name registrar. I'm using Namecheap, but whichever registrar you use, the functions are going to be the same. You need to go to the section of name servers. And as you can see over here, this domain is currently hosted on SiteGround. And if I want to point a domain name server to the IP address on UltaHost, all you need to do is to select the Namecheap basic DNS. And over at the advanced DNS, this is where you can change the A record. So let me delete this and let me do it again. Now over here, click on add new record. And we want to select this A record. And then for the host, we want to put add and then the IP address. So this basically means that this domain is hosted at this IP address. Let's check this to save changes, and then we want to add another new record. This time around, we want to select CNAME record, and over here, the host, we want to put www, so that in case someone types in www.carve.com, they both mean the same thing. It's all going back to the domain name. Let's save the changes. And we are basically done right here. And immediately you have changed this, you need to go back to your CyberPanel. Over here, make sure that you have selected the correct website. Let's go to SSL and manage SSL. Select carve.com and then issue SSL. And we are done. So let's go and check out the website. And there we go. Now let's check if this site is now hosted on UltaHost. Let's go to dnschecker.org, put in our domain, and let's search. Now, as you can see, some parts of the world, the DNS is still propagating, but the IP address here matches the one from CyberPanel, which means the domain is now hosted on UltaHost. So this is cool. If you're not confident in migrating your WordPress website to UltaHost, you can seek their support team to do that for you. I think UltaHost is probably the only VPS hosting provider that provides this service. Most VPS providers just expect you to do everything on your own. So that's why I highly recommend UltaHost. Not only is their support good, they happen to be the best performing as well. Anyway, there is one more thing left to discuss, which is the security features of CyberPanel. So let's go. Now let's talk about some security features. First, we have the firewall. As you can see, by default, CyberPanel has whitelisted this list of items. Port 8090 is the CyberPanel. Port 433 is the HTTPS. But if you look closely, the port for Lightspeed server is not here. I'm not sure if you need access to the Lightspeed server, but if you do, you can access it through your IP address. Let's copy this and then let's open another tab. The port for Lightspeed server is 7080. And here we go. In case you are blocked for this page for some reason, maybe your hosting provider blocked that port by default, for example, you can come back here and whitelist the port by adding the rule name. You can put this as Lightspeed server. This is just for your reference, and then you can select TCP, and then for the IP address you can copy this and paste it here, and for the port it is 7080. You can add this, and this port is being whitelisted here. This is the basic function of this firewall. You'll get a more comprehensive one later on. Next, we have this secure SSH, which is the access to your root server. If you don't want anyone to gain access to your root server by guessing the password, for example, you can disable this. You can also specify the port number of your root access. By default, it is 22. You can change it to something else, but just make sure that it does not conflict with others, such as the ones you see just now. And then if you only want to allow access to your root server through your local computer, you can click on this SSH keys, and then you will go to your local computer and generate those keys and add them here with these commands. So in future, if you want to log into the root server, you don't need a password to access it, but you can only access it through that local computer. I won't show you how to do it, but there's a documentation over here. I've left a link to it in the description. Next, we have the mod security configuration. By default, mod security is not installed. You have to turn this on manually. Mod security is basically an open source web-based firewall application. It adds a layer of security to prevent your web applications from Trojans, SQL injections, and many others. Basically, mod security works in the background. Every page request to your server is being vetted by mod security, and it will filter out those requests that may seem malicious. So this is the most basic of all site security. I highly recommend that all these are turned on. And you also want to turn this mod security rules packs on as well, right here. Next, we have the CSF, which is the more advanced firewall. By default, this CSF is not installed. You need to install it. This will protect your server from brute force attacks. If there are too many login attempts from a particular IP address, it will automatically block requests from that IP. And in case you're not happy with somebody visiting your site, maybe it is your enemy or whoever, and you know their IP addresses, you can block them from visiting your site through this CSF. What I just said can be done over here. Anyway, let's go to the next. We have this Immunify 360. Now this Immunify 360 is a comprehensive security suite. It has antivirus, firewall, PHP security, and many other features. Basically, it protects your server and websites from malicious malwares, and it makes it hard for anyone to access your server without your permission. But if hackers did manage to install some malicious malware, it has the ability to clean it up. This is really cool, but it is not free. The smallest plan of all is $12 per month. So if you got an Immunify 360 account, you'll be able to get a key where you can put it here and install it. And finally, this Immunify AV, which is basically a free malware scanner. By default, it is not installed. We can install it now. And what this does is that it will scan your website for any malware and it will notify you. But if it happens that there are malware on your server or on your websites and you want to remove it, then you probably need to get an Immunify 360. So you can basically access this. You can log in through your root access. And here's how it looks like. They'll do all the malware scan and everything, and you'll be notified whenever there is a malware. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that this video has helped you out. Feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know if it worked for you. All the best to you. Take care, and as always, stay safe.